the dying embers of human existence, as the asteroid, a behemoth the size of Texas, hurtles relentlessly toward Earth. The world braces for an apocalyptic end. Deep beneath the bunker, a refuge plunges into the bowels of the Earth. Here the chosen gather, their purpose clear, to preserve the very soul of our civilization. The 35 and 70 millimeter prints that encapsulate the magic, the emotion, and the dreams of generations past. These masterpieces, each frame a testament to the human spirit, are carefully cataloged and cradled in the cavernous confines of the bunker. Perhaps there was room for more, for friends and family yearning for salvation, but sacrifices must be made. The movie nerds stand united, the keepers of a flame, promising a future where the art of storytelling endures, transcending the boundaries of time and space. God help us all.
I am the scales of justice, conductor of the choir of death. Sing, brother Hawk. Sing, brother. Sing, sing.
Welcome to Back to the Frame Rate, part of the Weston Media Podcast Network. Join us as we watch and discuss films on VOD and streaming platforms, deliberating on whether each one is worthy of salvation or destined for destruction in the face of the impending asteroid apocalypse. You can find more episodes of this podcast on backtotheframerate.com, where you can subscribe and share our show and find us on our socials at Back to the Frame Rate. I am Nathan Schur, and accompanying me are the extraordinary movie mavens, Brianna Butterworth and Sam Cole.
Hello.
Hey!
It is time for Mad Max franchise draft, where you must both draft the ultimate cast of Mad Max characters to lead you into Valhalla. Are you ready for this?
Born ready.
Here is the scenario. After the events of Mad Max Fury Road, we've entered a time of peace. The war rig has been retired and modifications have been made, and it now operates as a desert oasis ice cream truck, making frequent stops at the Citadel, Gastown, and the Bullet Farm. But running a successful ice cream truck business is not easy. Your task now is to draft 5 people from the entire Mad Max franchise to run your business. And these are the 5 jobs: a CEO, a maintenance technician, a sales and marketing person, an ice cream scooper, and someone to drive the newly coined chill chariot.
All right. Who's going first?
Between both of you, I will keep track. So,
What do you think, B? How would you like to go first?
B, Sam, B.
All right.
And you can go
I
in
know
any
who I
order you
want
as long as you have all of these covered.
Okay, well, I know who I want as my driver.
You can go first, B.
I want Max.
Max is your driver. First pick in the draft.
All right.
So for my CEO, I'd pick the leader of the Road Warrior group that was in that compound. He died, but he's
Papagallo?
Yeah, Papagallo, definitely.
Oh, shit. That's a good choice.
Yeah.
Papagallo is your CEO.
He'd be merciful too.
Okay.
He wouldn't be like, you know.
He'd be
That's
a very
pretty
benevolent
good.
CEO. Yes.
That's pretty
Max
good.
and Papagallo. All right, first round is done. B, you're on the clock.
Okay, shit. For my scooper, I want Nux.
Nux is your scooper.
Yeah.
I don't know. You think he might scare away the clientele?
No, he's going to be scooping. He's fine.
Scooping. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Have you seen people when they're tripping? They're going to get so much extra ice cream. They're so happy.
That is true.
For maintenance, I would definitely pick Furiosa.
Shit, she was my
Furiosa is your maintenance technician, keeping the chill chariot functioning and on its wheels turning. Very good. All right, round 3.
Yeah, no, for sure my CEO is the Vuvolini lady who can slide down a rope naked because she could take it. She could
Is that
do
the
anything.
Valkyrie?
I don't know her name.
I think it was the Valkyrie.
She can, yeah. She's been through some shit.
She has been. All right. Sam, round 3.
So
You get sales, scooper, and a driver.
for sales and marketing, that would be the toe cutter. Because he'd be very flamboyant. He'd be like, "Come here."
Why not? Why not? All right. Round 4. B, you've got your sales and marketing and your maintenance technician left.
Sure. Maintenance, I'm going gyrocopter pilot.
Yes.
Yeah.
Gyro captain. Good pick.
Yeah.
Sam, scooper and driver are left.
Scooper would be Immortan Joe.
Oh my God, he's going to affect your ice cream. Sam, I'm going to win.
I don't know. He's got those cancerous blisters on him. And
He does, but I'm trying to be inclusive,
Oh my God. I like that you just have Hugh Keys burned twice.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, exactly. He can copy himself,
Yeah, perfect.
right, you
digitally.
Got one job left.
That's
to
just
fill,
one
B,
paycheck.
your sales and marketing.
Tina Turner. I want Auntie Entity.
Auntie Entity as your sales and I think that's not bad. Yeah. All right.
Can you read through our teams?
Well, Sam's got one more to go. His
Okay.
driver,
That would be the gyro captain.
but he's taken.
He's
Oh,
on
he
my-
is?
He's my
Oh,
maintenance
shit.
guy.
Oh, that's right. I forgot. One of those like people on stilts that's like in the water place that got drained would be the driver.
Oh, they're creepy. What
Yeah.
used to be the
Like
green
Crows
place
or something. didn't
Yeah,
they?
yeah.
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 That reminded me
I
of
thought you
like
might go with
a.
Goose or something, but
That reminded me of Labyrinth a little bit. That scene because like it's suddenly spooky.
you know what I thought of? I thought of the Dark Crystal,
Yeah.
those Striders. What are they called?
Yes,
Landstriders?
Land Striders.
Yeah.
Yep,
God, I love the dark.
they were
Crystal.
very like Muppet-esque. Yeah.
Okay, here is your company. B, your CEO is Valkyrie. Your sales and marketing is Auntie Entity. Your scooper is Nux. Your driver is Mad Max, and your maintenance technician is the Gyro Captain.
Yes.
And Sam, your CEO is Papagallo. Your sales and marketing is Toe Cutter. Your scooper is Immortan Joe. Your driver are those guys on the walk around on the stilts. And your maintenance technician is Furiosa.
It's kind of like the movie Moneyball, where they pick the players that you don't think are going to be like incredible, but then my team turns out to be amazing.
We shall see. I'd love our listeners to chime in. Who do you want running your company of these two teams here? I don't know. I kind of feel like I have to go with B's team here. I think they're maybe a little stronger. I'm really worried about Immortan Joe scooping and Toe Cutter running your sales.
It's a bit.
I actually think
effed
Toe
up,
Cutter
yeah.
running sales would be really good because we're in like a post-capitalism society here.
Yeah.
He's
It's peacetime, though, I was telling you. So, okay. Well, if you hadn't already guessed, I don't know if you could have, but we watched Mad Max Fury Road, and we're here to discuss this film. Wow. I've seen this. I watched this movie twice this past week, and I'll get into that later in our review, but this was a lot of fun returning to this world this past week, and I can't wait to talk about this with you guys. So before we do, I have a trailer that I will play for you guys, and it is right here. I hope I play the right clip. I have so many clips in my Zencastr.
You can do
here.
it, Nathan.
I might pick the wrong one, so I
You
apologize.
can do it.
Here it is.
In this wasteland, I am the one who runs from both the living and the dead. A man reduced to a single instinct. Survive.
It is by my hand. You arise from the ashes of this world.
Yeah. So, and basically, the plot is years after the collapse of civilization, the tyrannical Immortan Joe enslaves apocalypse survivors inside the desert fortress, the Citadel. When the warrior Imperator Furiosa, played by Charlize Theron, leads the despots. Is that what it is?
Mhm.
Yeah, that's was five wives in a daring escape. She forges an alliance with Max Rakatansky, played by Tom Hardy, a loner and former captive. Fortified in the massive armored truck, the War Rig, they try to outrun the ruthless warlord and his henchmen in a deadly high-speed chase through the wasteland. That about sums it up.
Woo!
So, Sam, do you have some movie facts?
Absolutely. So Mad Max Fury Road is a 2015 Australian post-apocalyptic action film co-written, co-produced, and directed by George Miller. Miller collaborated with Brendan McCarthy and Nico Lathoris on the screenplay. The fourth installment in the Mad Max franchise, it was produced by Village Roadshow Pictures, Rat Pack Dune Entertainment, and Kennedy Miller Mitchell, and distributed by Roadshow Entertainment in Australia and by Warner Brothers Pictures internationally. The film stars Tom Hardy, Charlize Theron, with Nicholas Hoult and returning cast member Hugh Keys-Byrne, who was also the tail cutter in 1979's Mad Mix, Rosie Huntington-Whiteley, Riley Keough, and a bunch of other people who I'll talk about another time. Actually, there was a long development hell on this project because Miller actually came up with the idea for Fury Road in 1987. But the film spent many years in development hell
do this for so long?
before pre-production began in 1998 of all times. They actually attempted to shoot this film in the 2000s, but it was delayed numerous times due to the September 11th attacks, the Iraq War, obvious controversies surrounding star Mel Gibson, who was replaced as Max Rakatansky, and it took a long time. And so Miller did not come back to this concept until after Happy Feet. In 2009, he announced that filming would begin in early 2011. Hardy was actually cast as Max in June 2010. Anyway, this movie was a huge success. I'll go more into the production in a minute, but it premiered in Los Angeles on May 7th, 2015, and was released in Australia on May 14th. It grossed $380.4 million at the worldwide box office, making it the highest-grossing Mad Max film to date. Praised by critics for its direction, writing, action sequences, musical score, technical aspects, and performances, particularly those of Hardy and Theron, who did not famously get along. Won Best Film at the National Board of Review and was also named one of the top 10 films of 2015 by the American Film Institute. Now, some other interesting production info, which I'll get to in a second. Give me a moment here. My 3-year-old child just chomped on my cigar, which has me a little bit concerned. But so they were actually planning to film at Broken Hill, New South Wales, a familiar location and close proximity to where the other films were shot. But after unexpected heavy rains caused wildflowers to grow in the desert around Broken Hill, not exactly post-apocalyptic scenery, filming was moved from Broken Hill back to Namibia in November 2011, which is fascinating because this was very vastly different filming location, which I personally feel added to the desolate tone of this film.
Hard agree, Australian Sam.
I'd agree. And let's see, cinematographer John Seal came out of retirement to shoot Fury Road, replacing Dean Semler. And they actually shot in a place called Dorub National Park. And one comment on the sound design that I just found fascinating over here. If I can, here it is. Oh, right. Miller actually recruited his wife, Margaret Sickle, to edit the film as he felt she could make it stand out from other action films, which, damn, she certainly did. My God, did she succeed. Sickle had 480 hours of footage to edit, which took 3 months to watch. I can't even imagine that.
You have to be married to someone to go through that.
That's just
that's
unbelievable.
Insane.
The film contains about 2,700 cuts in 120 minutes, or 22.5 cuts per minute, compared to Mad Max 2, 1,200 cuts in 90 minutes, or 13.33 cuts per minute. Lastly, I'll say there's so much to talk about this movie. I could go on forever, but I'll stop. Sound designer Mark Mangini stated that he viewed the War Rig as an allegory for Moby Dick, with Immortan Joe playing the role of Captain Ahab. As such, the mechanical truck sounds of the rig were layered with whale calls to provide a more animal-like quality, when the tank is was pierced with harpoons and milk sprays out, sounds of whales breathing from their blowholes were incorporated. For the final destruction of the war rig, the only sounds used were slowed down bear growls to symbolize the death of a truck as a living creature.
That's cool. This movie rips.
Yep.
Fury Road is Rockatansky radical, in my opinion.
I want to say your Australian accent, Sam, pretty mediocre.
I'm surprised that you could tell that it wasn't real, because I personally thought it was incredible. But
no, it was really good. You know what? But honestly, your Australian accent is spot on. Reminds me of Brian Brown. Remember Brian Brown, the actor?
Yes.
Anyone know who that is?
Yes.
That's, if I close my eyes, I think you're channeling him. He's still alive, but that's who it reminded me of.
I actually wasn't going to do it. Then I dipped into it in the middle of the paragraph, and I was like, oh man, now I'm stuck. I got to do it the whole way.
I think you should keep it up the entire review. No, it's okay. Thank you. I want to add on to one or two things here. This, I think we mentioned this came out May 15th, 2015. Top 10 at the box office. This did not debut at number one, and it's amazing. Pitch Perfect 2 debuted at the same day that this did.
Oh, wow.
87.5 million. Pitch Perfect 2. Mad Max debuted with 63.4. People
and
think
Andrew Kendrick released the cringiest tweet of all time when that happened.
What was it? I don't remember.
Oh, you don't. So Anna Kendrick, star of Pitch Perfect 2, released a tweet that was like, I want to thank everyone for supporting my movie instead of the one with the supermodels. Like, I don't know. I think you missed the point.
This is such a random comment, but when the Lord of the Rings 20th anniversary, they had a rap on the Stephen Colbert Show, and for no reason, out of the blue, Elijah Wood is like, it's the best trilogy ever. Then he's like, that's right, Anna Kendrick's Pitch Perfect ain't shit. and then it cuts to a shot of her, and she was like, what the hell? I thought we were friends.
Rounding out the top 10, I'll do this really quickly here because we have a lot to talk about. Avengers Age of Ultron was number 3 in its third week, made 50 million. Hot Pursuit was number 4 in its second week, made 7.7. Furious 7 in its 7th week made 4.7. Age of Adeline in its 4th week made 4.6. Paul Blart Mall Cop number 2 in its 5th week made 4.5. Home, I don't remember Home. I should, but in its 8th week made 3.3. Far from the Madding, I don't know if I wrote that right, Madding Crowd in its 3rd week make 1.8 million. And finally, Women in Gold, I don't even remember this, in its 8th week made 1.7 million. So that's what was going on about 9 years ago.
Boy, and now in May 2024, I mean, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes is doing pretty well, but I must say this is so far has been kind of a tepid.
Oh, it's been a
box office May. Yeah,
I was just reading
kind of depressing. Yeah,
I was reading Hollywood Reporter earlier today, and it's down 20% from last year, which I thought was far worse. Because if you think about the movies that have come out, and everything's been a disappointment pretty much.
Yeah,
most things have. I think Godzilla X Kong or whatever it is has been the only thing, and maybe and Dune 2 really has been the really only 2 successes that have been.
We're seeing that shift of what I think are more interesting movies in the box office now. I mean, Q1's always dead, but it's not. People just aren't going out.
How did If perform at the box? I know it got mediocre reviews, but I didn't check.
35 million, which is still lower than they wanted.
Yeah,
but I have thoughts on If. Well, I'm not going to share them right now.
We got to talk about the Fall Guy too. I know everybody's talking about the Fall Guy. There's nothing new to say.
But
I wonder if it's like writer's strike related. They mentioned that, but it seems it's so quiet this May. It just kind of hurts. I'm like, I really hope that Fury Road ignites some robustness, because
I think it will.
I'm not Fury Road, Furiosa.
Furiosa.
I keep doing the same thing.
Yeah.
A couple other things. We'll do this really quickly. It wasn't a huge box office success. At least people have the illusion that it was. We mentioned that it was. I don't know what the actual box office. I'm sorry, what the budget actually was for this. There's a range between 154 to 185. I keep reading, so I don't know what the firm number was, but it made 180. I'm sorry, 380, which sounds good, but it's not great. People think that this did like $1 billion, and it didn't. And it really is a minimal success when you consider the marketing that went into this movie. So I think it did take a while for this movie, for a sequel, a follow-up to this to come out, and that might have been part of it, because people that are like us were fans of this movie, I think it was a small niche audience that really loved this movie. It was not a mainstream hit.
It's also
it gained
the
a lot
cost,
over time.
like cost ratio. So like 380, it would be incredible if it was like, a $10 million indie film. It certainly didn't fail. It's just like the movie was expensive, but it's not big, but considering that there hadn't been anything in Mad Max since Beyond Thunderdome, it was still robust enough for people to be like, wow, people like this, because it could have in theory tanked, which I'm glad it didn't. You know what I mean?
It was a huge risk. And that's 2015 dollars. This would be over, well over 200 million in 2024 dollars too. So it was a very expensive movie to make.
And it shows every dollar is on the screen.
It totally is.
Yeah.
Awards, it did very well. As we know, won costume design at the Academy Awards, costume design, film editing, makeup and hairstyling, production design, sound editing, sound mixing. Was nominated for visual effects, but lost to Ex Machina. Obviously lost a spotlight for Best Picture, and George Miller lost Best Director to Alejandro Inarritu for The Revenant that year. And cinematography also lost to The Revenant. So,
having recently watched The Revenant with all of you, what a miss. What a miss.
Yeah, I think even on that episode, we were kind of lamenting that maybe they got it wrong. But
wouldn't be the first time.
Can't really, Revenant had its qualities, but
I still can't believe 2015 is 9 years ago. It just Fury Road feels recent in my mind. It's like almost a decade old. It messes with me.
Same.
All right. So, Sam, you drew the short straw tonight. So you're gonna... No, it wasn't Sam. B drew the short straw.
I'd be happy to let Sam go first. I hate going first.
Throwing you into this. So
sure.
Lead us into Valhalla, B.
Yeah, it is not a surprise. This movie, high octane. I love it. I absolutely adore this movie. I think it's a stone cold masterpiece. And it's probably one of my favorite movies the last 10 years. I mean, it's something I come back to a lot. I love that this movie dumps you in the middle of another movie. Like, you don't realize when you open and there's the voiceover that he's mid-chase. And I think that's so smart. Obviously, Charlize Theron's performance is a total standout, but everyone in this movie just feels so three-dimensional, no matter how much screen time they have. And I think that's really a credit to Miller's world building and how, I keep coming back to, I really think George Miller is just remaking the first Mad Max over and over and over again with more money and more tools at his disposal. One of the things I want to talk to you all about here is, I think it's a really straightforward A to B plot, but the filmic language of this movie, I mean, he's just such a visual storyteller. You really get the sense of he could be making silent movies here. The color grading, I think, is a super interesting choice, and how he tells the story, how he fucks with the frame rate, I think is really interesting. I mean, I heard a lot about that, so I want to talk. And Nathan, I wanted to ask you for the color grading, if it mattered, if you watch it in black and chrome, if that changed anything for you.
Yes, I'm going to get to that though.
Okay. All right. I want to talk about it.
I do have. Yeah, I will.
You have feelings? Okay.
I do have feelings.
Yeah.
It's going to be part of my review.
Okay. It's interesting how this movie is. I heard someone, I forget who, say this movie felt like a representation of what it's like to be on Twitter all the time, just relentless. Everything's coming at you, and then out of nowhere, someone screams, "I am the scales of justice."
I felt that way about Sucker Punch, but go ahead.
A worse movie. I was not expecting, when I watched this movie, having seen all the previous Mad Maxes, this to be a statement piece on feminist liberation. And coming out a month before Trump announced his candidacy, it is impossible for me to separate this movie from that time period, I think about that a lot. And it's in all the movies, but in here you really notice the absence of culture, the absence of arts, the absence of things that bring societies together. And you're really brought back to our, Maslow's basic needs. And yeah, it's a crazy time. And I think it's the perfect movie for the time when it came out. So balls to the wall, action masterpiece, perfect movie, 10 out of 10, 5 out of 5.
Good. And I want to say one thing about the whole Trump thing. I agree with you, but I'm really glad that this did not come out during Trump, during that.
Yeah, it was right on the precipice when it seemed like a ridiculous notion that we would end up there.
If it had come out during the Trump campaign or during his presidency, I think this would have had a whole different spotlight on it.
Yeah,
and I'm glad that I can look at this movie kind of separate from that also. And I don't think about this as a commentary on that. And I'm glad that this lives in that separately from that, because I think I can enjoy it as not a commentary on it.
I don't think it's a commentary on it, but I do think
in
hindsight and in rapid succession, going from seeing this movie to sort of what we all lived through in 2016, it really adds a different weight to the viewing experience for me.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. All right, now it's your turn, Sam.
Woo!
Go.
So, detritus, poorly shot. No, just kidding. It's incredible. No, I love this movie. For me, the action in this feels like sequences from like Terminator 2 or Speed if they're turned into a whole movie with a cast of like hundreds added to the action scenes. I love how freewheeling and free the movie is. It is not like hindered by exposition. It tells the story on the run. And so part of the reason that the characters feel so three-dimensional and so real is because you learn about them on the move in the perfect visual medium of storytelling. They don't stop and talk about the plot. There's no moment where a Morton Joe is like, I spent so long building this place and blah, 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 blah. It's just like excellent visual storytelling. It's like if the third act of Road Warrior was like turned into a movie with like a plot, like, strung around it, but just, and I love, I also feel the apocalyptic land is truly ominous in this film. This movie, of all the Mad Maxes, has the most shots of, it always terrifies me when they're well ahead of like Immortan Joe's armada and they have to stop, or there's a problem with the war rig and you see this fleet of like vehicles in the distance and you have time to dread their approach. You're like, my God, they're on their way. I love the night scene when it gets dark and the sniper and he takes out. I love the fact that they have to like turn around and go back into the fray at the end. It's just so visceral and so well done. I love the movie now. I'll be honest. When I saw it in 2015, I liked it a lot. It took me a moment to adjust to the choppy frame rate. And it was also so saturated and colorful compared to the more gritty, dusty.
It's radioactive.
Yeah. Like exactly like dusty dirt look of like Road Warrior. And so, but I mean, ultimately, I love this film. For me personally, as crazy as it sounds, it would still be my second favorite because Road Warrior I just have this really like strong visceral connection to. But like Fury Road is just a spectacular action film through and through. Relentless, great music, great. It's like the antithesis and the ultimate course correction from Beyond Thunderdome, even though it has nothing to do with that film. Like they're separated by years. This is a terrible. I always use like James Bond for everything, even when it doesn't apply. But like,
I think it totally applies here.
Whenever there's a Bond film that goes too like campier in one direction, they course correct and they make an edgier Bond. This is like Mad Max, like back to form, and it's like the ultimate version of it. And so when I say it's my second favorite, it's like they're literally almost equivalent. And Road Warrior only has like a centimeter above it, like half a centimeter, because of a childhood like, because it was my introduction to that world.
Yep.
So I would give this movie just a rave, like 4.5 stars. Awesome. Just like thumbs up from me, without going into like plot details and stuff, which we'll discuss. But like, yeah, amazing action, incredible visceral filmmaking, fast paced, relentless, endlessly relentless. And I love that it never slows down and like stops to like shift gears. It's not one of those films where it's like, oh, the middle act was great, then it runs out of gas. It's like pedal to the metal the whole entire way. It's incredible.
Whole time. Talking about that tension, Sam, I feel that so strongly, and I know I'm just buckled in for the best movie ever when they drive into that sandstorm.
The sandstorm is incredible. Even when like
incredible,
it's amazing. Or like when Charlize Theron like decides to deviate from the course and like turns off into the desert, I'm already nervous. I'm like, oh my God, the army is going to come after her. Like the movie just I'm like, and in the best possible way, it drives me nuts that Max is not able to get that thing off his face for like 35, 40 minutes. I'm like, get it off, damn it.
I timed it's 45 minutes of this movie. This movie has the balls to cover Tom Hardy's face for 45 minutes of this movie where we don't see his face clean. I mean, that's crazy. That's crazy. And to comment on that sandstorm, I also agree that it's insane. It felt dangerous and visceral, and it's also gorgeous.
It's
beautiful.
And
I was just wondering what the hell is going on. I mean, is this a sandstorm or is this like a nuclear tornado that's happening? Like,
is this the wrath of God? Yeah. I mean, it's the movie, huge.
It's huge, and like the movie perfectly uses like CGI well, because obviously it has all the cars, all the rear rigs. But when it does use CGI, it uses it in the best possible way, not to replace something, but to augment like just the vastness of, the Citadel. Or like even at the beginning when Max is trying to escape and he's like running around and he's like going through all those tunnels and he comes to the cliff's edge and they pull him back in. It's just like a nightmare scape. Yeah. You know what I mean?
And I want to get to your review, Nathan, but to your point, like it should be held up as the example for what is possible with this technology even 9 years ago. And instead, in the subsequent 9 years, we've gotten flatter, we've gotten duller, we've gotten cheaper. And it's just, to return to this is just, I'm excited to see Furiosa. I'm excited for a return to form.
Well, I have a comment on why I think that is as well. But there are very few films that I recall seeing in the theater and screaming at the screen, shouting, yes, yes, yes. Yeah. And back in 2015, this movie had several of those moments. And I remember sitting next to my wife at the moment who did not like this movie, mind you. So it was a little awkward, but like, well, you may laugh, but that other film I recall was 1995's Desperado from Robert Rodriguez, which I just remember having a blast with. Yeah. It was so entertaining and so
a very different movie,
but
was
very different.
Good movie.
So at the top, I just want to say, what I love most about this film is that it feels like an independent film. Yes, I know we're in the future and probably an alternate reality, but I feel like if Universal Studios, Disney, or another big studio had their hands all over this, it would have that look and feel of a big conglomerate behind it. And I love the fact that this film feels like a singular vision from a master craftsman. There's not a whiff of product placement. I don't feel like I'm being sold Coke or Apple products. Mm-hmm. You know that if George Miller wasn't behind this, you would see old Coke bottles or repurposed iMac doing something in this.
Yeah, that's a great point.
You don't see any of this. So saying Fury Road has amazing action is an understatement. And we've all talked about this already. But for me, what sets this film apart from any action film is that it's not just action for the sake of action. Immediately, we're thrown into this chase/escape film. But we're riding through the desert, and George Miller is weaving story in the entire time and character development. I've watched so many films over the years, and when it comes to these types of scenes, I find myself looking at my watch, praying for it just to wrap up so we can get back to the plot. Because it's rare that you see anything new under the sun. Fury Road has great action moments, but it's not always necessarily doing anything new with action. I just think it's painting with a much broader brush. But because Miller has planted the seeds with great storytelling and where we care about Max and Furiosa and Nux and the brides. Well, maybe to some extent, I think perhaps my only gripe with the movie is with how they use the brides or the wives in this movie a little bit. But even some of the mini bosses, which I think they flesh out with some great characterizations, I'm invested in this movie like a cat watching a laser pointer every single minute.
Yes, same.
This is a 5-star movie.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's it.
I also there's a humorous moment that I love that just like I laughed out loud in the theater. I love this moment. It's when Nux is like talking to a Morton Joe, and I can't remember the exact dialogue, but he's like, "I will climb onto the truck. I will do this." And a Morton Joe is like, "If you pull this off, I will meet you in Valhalla." And like the music soars, and you're like, "Oh, this is going to be this epic character moment." Then he trips and falls, and a Morton Joe is like, "Oh, stupid."
I have a clip right here when he tells him,
"You will ride eternal, shining and chrome."
That's what he tells Nux.
I talked about the visual storytelling language, but the actual, all the Mad Max movies have this, but the actual language in this movie, it's so close to gobbledygook, but you know exactly what they're saying.
Yes.
It's really well done. And I also noticed, I don't know if you all caught this, but in the beginning of the movie, you hear these voiceovers, not the big intro that Max is doing, but it's sort of recalled the radios from the first movie that gave you a little hint of the plot because you really had to tune into those radios from the first one. It's like, oh, that's super cool. There were lots of little nods like that to the past movies that I thought were cool.
There were so many of those. I like that, like at the beginning, and just like the sound design is like incredible in this movie. I'll say what I'm fascinated by when we talk about Furiosa, because we haven't seen it yet, but like this movie takes place over 3 days or like 2.5 days. Furiosa takes place over 15 years. And I can't wait to see how that movie like moves, or like, it's going to be very different in feel, but I'm so open to it. Like I just have this feeling, and I could be wrong, that Furiosa will really complement Fury Road, and like the two movies will be like blood brothers, but we'll find out. I don't know.
I'm excited.
Yeah. So world building in this, I think, is a real strength of this. And I think it starts off right off the bat. We're at the Citadel in the beginning here. I mean, obviously there's that great chase. Well, there's a little chase in the beginning. We never get enough of the Interceptor ever in these movies. I feel like we're so teased. We see that monologue and Max is chased down and his Interceptor is destroyed right away.
Immediately.
And I wonder if we're ever going to get a Max real strong like Interceptor scene. I feel like
Max barely drives at all in this movie.
He not much.
Yeah.
But I love the opening scene where he is chased through the Citadel. And the one thing I really am not really, I think kind of feels like a very dated thing, is where we see those little flashbacks of his son, I think it is, or whatever it is. It feels very like Saw-esque or something, or horror-esque. And I'm not a fan of it.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I think it's used so sparingly that I don't think it hurts the movie. I read somewhere that it was a daughter or something, Glory the child. I don't know. Everyone's got a name. But I like that it shows that it makes him mad. It puts the mad in Mad Max. Yeah,
I felt like it's just another version of him showing that he lost his family. You know what I mean? Like it's like the same. I mean, I agree with you, Nathan, on the visuals. That's why for me, some of the visuals on the frame rate stuff, for me, sometimes feel like they're a device to cover up the difficulty of some stunts. So if you take a frame here and you remove a frame here, it like just, you know what I mean? Like there's a bit of a finesse where I love it when it's the grit of Road Warrior, where it's like looks like it's almost not color timed and it's just like dirt, and you know what I mean? Like, so those little tweaky things you're talking about, I get that. It doesn't bother me that much, but I hear what you're saying.
But I got off track with the world building. What I got off track was I just love that we are really fleshing out this world at the Citadel. Here we have the society, that, there's no papers or filing system. And
Mhm.
what they do is, they brand people and they tattoo people their vitals on them. And I just love how we see a city with people. We see how it operates with the war boys, and it's a functioning community. I'm not saying that Morton Joe is a nice guy. Yes, it's a totalitarian regime, but it's organized, and you can
It's
see how the
interesting.
world has progressed.
Well,
It's
speaking of
interesting
that,
how
like,
quickly people wanted to create that society. Like someone has to stand up and be like, "I'm the king," after everything goes to shit.
I like it when he's saying like, "Don't get addicted to water," and you're like, "Oh my god!" But like, did you notice? Like, to me, this symbolism, it felt like on purpose, and I really liked it. But when he's walking towards the room to find out if his wives are still there, but they're missing, there's a vent fan that casts a shadow on the door, and it purposely looks like a swastika to me. Like it's like because he's like
I didn't even
Nazi
catch
evil. The first time I saw that in the theater, I was like, "Ooh, that's brilliantly well done," because it's a fan, but it's rotating and it's the shadow.
Mm.
To me, it looks like a swastika, basically saying like, "Look at this like terrifying, like totalitarian, Aryan, like it's like subliminal evil." You know what I mean? Like that. I love
He
that.
is
To me, that felt like it was on purpose. Yeah.
I think he's one of the scariest. I mean, I kind of think the series has a villain problem until you get to a Morton Joe. Although I also really like Toe Cutter. I think he's great. So I don't know if it's just what Keys Burns brings to Miller's work as just an interpreter of it, but
Are you kidding me? Tina Turner was terrifying. Just kidding.
yeah, but I thought that was great. Did you see the vitals? Did anyone catch the vitals that they
I did
tattoo
pause
on
it.
next?
There's some great,
No
there's
lumps,
some,
no bumps, genitals intact.
and yeah, there was some good stuff in there. I was actually going to pause it and write it down, but I figured we wouldn't really get to it. But and Morton Joe keeps his wives locked away in a bank vault. You see the size of that door? Like, where are they gonna go? Like, that thing is ridiculously like huge. Oh man,
It's crazy. The whole like Citadel is really, I mean, we see it really briefly and we get everything we need to know about it. I mean, there's people who operate the levers, there's people who blow talcum powder on a Morton Joe, there's Aquacola.
I love the when everybody's mobilizing and they start chanting V8, V8, V8. And there, you know what? Huge marketing opportunity blown by the V8 vegetable juice makers. Why there was not cross promotion? Because they didn't do Happy Meals or anything like that. But V8 vegetable juice, guys, get on it. All right, you blew it. Because
I saw this with a friend of mine at the Man's Chinese Theater in 2015, and I won't mention his name because I was sort of like throwing him under the bus with one comment. But like, and he's a great guy. But we were talking about film production afterwards because I was making the short. He was like, "Yeah, I think I really like that movie." He's like, and I asked him, I was like, "How much did you think Fury Road cost?" And he was like, "Oh, definitely no more than 30 million." And I was like. I was like 30, no way.
People don't think there's any CG in this movie. It's so cleverly disguised in this.
This is like CG done right. Like I'm not anti CG. I just like it when it's used purposefully and cleverly. And a quick comment, but a movie like I think it's called Boat Cruise with the Rocks, or that Jungle Boat or something.
Jungle Cruise.
Yeah, Jungle Cruise. That movie to me is like the laziest. It's like CGI river, CGI boat, CGI trees, and it's like, could you guys have maybe like gone on location in Hawaii? Like maybe they did, but it's like just get a boat. Like Jesus. I don't know. That's just me.
I want you guys to comment on this as well. But favorite scene or sequence in the movie is after Furiosa has gone rogue And I like the fact that it doesn't really, there's no great moment where she can veer off course because it's a straight shot all the way to Gastown. And
Mhm.
it's just a matter of when she does it because
And
they're
she's got
watching.
bullet farmers on her ass.
I know, but she turns, and then when the war party is introduced, and I just love that moment where it reminds me a little bit of like how they introduced that shot we fly over everybody in the Road Warrior, but this is like amped up even more. So Max is hitched up to Nuxie's the blood bag in this moment, and they're chasing after Furiosa, and we see the giant rig. I'm calling it the Coachella truck. And from behind, and you get the war boys playing the drums, and they got the war call. We swing over the front of the truck and reveal, I guess, Doof. What is it? Doof, the
Doof warrior.
blind mutant who is shredding a fucking flame-throwing double bass guitar.
It's the fucking coolest thing. Did you also notice that he was strapped into like a Thunderdome harness? Because that's what I thought.
Yeah. Well, that
Oh
thing,
wow, I did not know. I got to go back and watch that. I'm
that
sure it was. Yeah.
Around.
that guitar, I think, weighs like 250 pounds. That's why.
Jesus.
That's is one of some of the trivia that I read.
Worth
This
it.
movie has my attention at this point when that guy shows up.
Yes.
Well, it did beforehand, but at this point, yes. What I love about this entire rolling Coachella concert is that it's reminiscent of how like the British played the fife and drums while heading into battle in the American Revolutionary War. That's what I'm thinking of. And
It's the war drums, yeah.
yeah, it is.
It's so eventful. It's just like you're just like, ah.
I love that they're like, oh shit, the wives are gone, the imperator's gone rogue, somebody get the guitar.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes.
This is what we need to do.
It's important. It's so important. And I paused my disc while I counted the speakers, and there's like 90 to 100 of them. Did some research. This is important. And the estimate is that this system was outputting about 120 decibels, which is the equivalent of a jet engine.
Yeah, good.
Yeah. Which makes sense why. And there's so much diegetic sound. When you are like 25 miles away from the war party and you get, Furiosa and Mad Max, trying to get out of the mud, you can see and hear those drums and guitar playing like way off in the distance. That's because it's outputting that much sound, and they did the calculations on this. You can hear that score, that music coming from that, and it's underneath that the whole time.
That's why it's so scary too, because it's like when you hear them so far away, it's like you hear like, and you're like, oh shit, they're coming, they're gonna be here in like 30 minutes. Get the hell out of here! Like it's awesome.
It is the perfect thumping soundtrack to this movie that just gives the right amount of anxiety all the time. And I don't know if you two ended up watching this movie, but the bullet farmer cars that we start to see, they're dressed up differently than the cars from the Citadel, and they really look like the cars from Peter Weird's The Cars That Ate Paris. They are so similarly designed.
The spiky ones?
Yeah, well, there was the spiky one in The Cars That Ate Paris, but there was also just a lot of other sort of rundown cars. And I was like, I really thought it was such a great nod to the exploitation that this movie was born out of.
There's a musical moment that I love, and I'm gonna botch explaining this because it's like I don't quite remember the exact timing, but it's like it's right near. It's either before or after when the road blows up, but it's when the motorcycle gang is up in the rocks and they're coming down. I don't know. I keep forgetting. There's so many different like tribes and gangs in this movie, but they're coming down to attack the war rig. But when you first see them like gearing up, the music switches and it goes like, but it's like a different chapter of like, there's, I love how there's chapters of action in this movie. It's like you have the initial escape, then the sandstorm, and the music adapts to each like chapter. It's almost like video game-ish, but in a good way, not a bad way, because it's like, and now level 3 where these guys show up, and now level 4 where we're in the mud. It's like it's
this
awesome,
does feel a little video game. I actually think I'd rather see a colored but silent and orchestral version of this movie, like Metropolis, than a black and white version.
I have that exact same note.
I don't. You don't need the dialogue in this movie. I love it.
You don't.
I'd love to see just the music with this movie, but we got to talk about Black and Chrome. Is it worth it?
Oh my God, we are on such the same wavelength, B, because this is. You stole my thunder a little bit here because I wanted to mention the Black and Chrome edition, and I was gonna actually dovetail into exactly your point. I did buy the Mad Max box set, which comes with the first 3 movies and this movie in 4K and the Black and Chrome edition and a whole bunch of stuff on it. But yeah, so Fury Road is gorgeous in black and white.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what's better?
Color.
Fury Road in all its vibrant color as it was intended. I love the look of black and white in film. I often think it helps focus me on certain elements of the storytelling. But this film is so dialed in with its storytelling to begin with that this version, the Black and Chrome, doesn't assist me, helping me engage.
Well, the film uses color to further plot and further world building.
Yeah. Instead, I found myself actually longing for the hyper decadent color palette of the original version. I'm really glad I took the time to finally watch it, but I probably won't ever again. But like you said, what I would love is to see a cut of Fury Road solely with a score set with no dialogue. There was one other thing I wanted to say about Black and Chrome, and I lost it now. But
I loved the night scenes in this movie where everything's kind of blue. I thought that was the night scenes, beautiful.
Yeah. And I like that they took this movie, like by a long shot, has the best because, and I understand, but like, you know, with Mad Max 79 and Road Warrior, the night scenes always look like they show the low budget. They look a little bit cheap. You know what I mean? Like even when in Road Warrior, when Max has the 2 like oil canisters and he's sneaking out into the desert at night, it's so dark, which is fine, but you almost want those like overhead night lights to give it that. And this just nails the look of night, and the fact that they take their time easing into the night like is amazing.
Can I say one other thing about Black and Chrome, which I want to tell the audience out there, if anybody does watch it, I'm not discouraging people from watching this, but I have a tip. I watched the first hour and probably 20 minutes of this movie with just popping in my Blu-ray and player and just watching it as it is. And as I'm watching it, I realize this looks good, but I feel like it could look better. I suggest, if you have the ability to do so, crank up the contrast on your TV as far as you can on the Black and Chrome edition. It made it
really dark,
much more hyper experience. Because once I did that for the last 40 minutes of this movie, the best way of comparing it, remember in Dune 2 where you went to that planet where everything was in black and white?
Yeah.
It made the movie kind of feel like that. I'm like, ooh, this is interesting. And I enjoyed it a little bit more. It kind of gave it that high contrast feel, and I enjoyed it more. Nobody really knows how to like set the color on their TVs, you know? So this is very inside baseball, but I would just say, play with your TV, adjust your colors to a version settings that you really like if you're going to watch Black and Chrome, because if it's not contrasty enough, I think it just kind of has a very dull feel to it. That was my experience. So yeah.
I'm fascinated by and this probably is included. What's the Nathan, the box set that you bought for the Mad Max?
High Octane box. It's called the High Octane box set. It came out like 5 years ago.
I've got the high Octane box set. That's what I've got to get, because I have not watched any kind of like making of Fury Road. But one thing I'm fascinated by is this movie in many ways boggles the mind of, on a typical shooting day in some of these scenes, like I just can't imagine. I mean, I can imagine it. I just don't know how it plays out. The schedule of like camera setups, and like, is one day just all wide shots and vehicles, then another day is like we're just doing interior. Like, it's so complicated and so well orchestrated that I find the coordination of the shoot just like boggling to me on the scale of this movie.
What I've heard is it was a nightmare.
Yeah.
I think
It sounds
everyone
like it, yeah.
who's worked on it, and even a little bit's leaking from Furiosa, but on Fury Road, I don't think anyone got along, and I think it was really hard for the actors to see the vision. And George Miller came out and admitted that, that's on him. It was hard to communicate, and he was sort of over directing them because he just had it so clear in his mind. Instead of a script, they were given a storyboard.
Well, that kind of makes sense because the scale of the movie is so big, and he knows what he wants. That they felt shut out of the collaborative like actor director process because he's like, no, just stand there, look out the window. Okay, move your head to the left. Okay, all right, now back to the right. Smoke, turn the fucking smoke on. You know what I mean? Like it's so
kind of what it was.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. Fascinating.
I know, but it gave us this incredible film.
Yeah, no, it's like it's amazing. I really got to watch. I would love to see it. More behind the scenes footage of and temperatures in Namibia and like where cast and crew stay and like how far away from a town they are. Like it sounds really, really rugged out, like rough,
It does sound rough. And then you think that despite that, the leads really still got a little bit of themselves, I thought, into the character. Like Charlize Theron, when she gets to her knees and she finally gets to what she thought was going to be the green place and the place of many mothers, and she breaks down. I mean, that's such a powerful moment. Yeah. And Tom Hardy's interpretation of Max is different than Mel's. So still there's some personality shining through the actors.
I'm glad you're bringing up the cast because I was about to pivot for a moment and I wanted to ask you guys about what you thought about the performances. Tom Hardy as Max. Do you think he is a better Max than Mel Gibson? Putting aside the baggage with Mel Gibson for a moment, if that's possible.
You're forgetting that he's a raging anti-Semite, terrible person.
Yeah. But again, if we could look at the performances solely, who do you really prefer as Mad Max?
You know what? For me, it's not a question of preference because I thought that Tom Hardy was excellent for Fury Road, and I thought that Mel Gibson was excellent in the first three. And to me, I don't have an issue. They're so different that they kind of don't cross over in my mind. So it's not that I prefer one or the other. It's like they were perfect for the movies they were in. I know that's not the question. Like I know I should pick one, but it doesn't. They don't conflict in my mind. I mean, Mel Gibson had 3 movies to like emote more and grow. But I thought Tom Hardy was like perfect for what he was able to achieve in this movie. He's just a different energy, but they don't cross over in my mind. That's a good question, a difficult one for me to answer.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you, Sam. For me, I have to compare Tom Hardy to the original Mad Max because those are, it's Tom Hardy's first crack at the character, and it was Mel's first crack. And in many ways, both of those films are much less about Max. At least the first one for a while. It doesn't really become Max's movie until a little bit further in.
Right.
But this just isn't a Max-centric installation of the franchise. So
will it ever be?
Yeah,
I don't know, but if depending on how successful Furiosa is, and I really hope it is, regardless of what I think of it, just because I love these movies. Miller did have another Mad Max story, working title Mad Max: The Wasteland. I don't know what that's about, but it sounds like it might be more Mad Max centric, knowing little about it. But I hope he gets to it because, man, these movies, I love them.
I thought Hardy was great. I think Mel does a better job at that. You really see his internal compass, his moral compass. I think he conveys that more. Here, Max is a little bit more of a victim of circumstance, whereas Max is actively making decisions when Mel is in charge.
Yeah, I agree with you, B. I think I hadn't really put a lot of thought into this question until this past week, what my take really is on Tom Hardy. And honestly, I'm not really sure where I stand on Tom Hardy as an actor in general. I look at his filmography and I'm like, do I really love him in anything? And
Well, obviously, you
there are
haven't
some-
seen Star Trek Nemesis. Just kidding, because that movie's not so good. But yeah,
but you know, he I feel like his goal in his career is to say as little as possible in his movies. And if he does open his mouth, he just comes off as it's like he should not speak.
Pre-Bane, right?
No, this is after Bane because
This is post-Bane?
That Batman movie was 2012.
oh, that's right. He was Bane. I totally.
Right.
Boy, that role is not like it's okay, but he's just like, oh, Mr. Wayne.
You look at that, you look at the Venom movies.
I haven't seen any of those.
It's just he. I don't even know where to begin. But my point is, I think I agree with you. I think Mel Gibson, person aside, I think he does emote a lot better in his movies, especially the third one. As much as I'm not a fan of Thunderdome, I think
he's given the most to work with there.
Definitely, he speaks the most of any of the Mad Max movies in any movie. What I find to be interesting is that this movie starts off what I think is a very interesting inner monologue. Which he in a quote, I quote, "I am the one who runs from both the living and the dead. A man reduced to his single instinct survive." He is an animal. He says it right there, but it's kind of a very articulate little bit of monologue. It's the most he probably says. It's the longest sentence that Max says in the whole movie is this monologue. We never get that version of Max that says this monologue anywhere else in this movie.
Well, the only place I would say the only place is when the wife, whose name I'm forgetting, when she dies, and he has to convince the war rig to carry on.
Oh, he's like, she went under the tires. Yeah,
she went under the wheels. I think that's great.
Yeah.
But it's fleeting.
It's a moment.
Yeah.
It's just a little moment.
Yeah.
I see both your points because, Nathan, I feel like where Mel Gibson does better than Tom Hardy is when he gets these little moments to emote, like in Road Warrior at the very end when he finds out that he's been driving a truck full of sand and there's no oil and and the gyro captain shows up and Gibson gives this like little smile oh man, those clever bastards. I kind of respect that. He can convey a lot of emotion in his face, which Tom Hardy doesn't do as much, but the movie doesn't really. It'd be easier to judge Tom Hardy if he had another Mad Max movie to like. It's Fury Road is not Mad Max centric, so he has little moments to emote. But I feel like Gibson got a lot more of a chance to like show his chops in Road Warrior and Thunderdome, especially.
Yeah, he did.
So, alternate reality. Also up for this role at one time was Jeremy Renner. Do you think he would have been better
too
choice?
shiny movie star?
Yeah, you know what's funny? I like Jeremy Renner. Like I like him, but and I never think of Jeremy Renner as lightweight, but I feel like he's too lightweight for Mad Max. Like I
can't see him feral. I can't see a feral Jeremy Renner running around.
Yeah, like I think he'd be good, but
Never dirty.
He's not that.
He's a little too clean.
The edge is not quite there.
Yeah, see, and that's what Tom Hardy, his interpretation, I almost think of these characters like, this is a really silly comparison, but like, you know how we have Sondheim, we consider those actors interpreters of Sondheim's work. That's kind of how I feel about these George Miller actors because he keeps coming back to the same actors for different roles. Mm-hmm. And I just think this interpretation of Max is just a little more feral.
Yeah. Totally. This is a version of Max that is very much more unhinged than any version of Max we've seen
before.
He's
a blood bag. Things have gotten worse, Nathan. Did you watch the movie?
He's been out in the desert a long time.
Shit's fuck. The crows are speaking Russian. Charlize Theron has an American accent for no reason. Things got weird.
I do love that insult when one of the wives is like, "You're nothing but a lead slinger," and you're like, "Oh damn!"
It's really good. But yeah, no, I think Mel's better at the moral compass of Max, and it's interesting what that means for the installations going forward.
I think I don't know. He's a crazy smeg who eats schlanga.
Oh, yes, a crazy smeg who eats schlanga.
I did write that down.
I just remember seeing that in the theater the first time and not understanding the words, but I knew enough in the context of that world. I was like,
Exactly.
oh, damn, what an insult. Oh, shit.
Exactly.
And the look she gives while delivering.
Yeah, it's like, oh.
Because we have to talk about the turning point of this film where they get to the place of many mothers.
Yeah.
And that is just so, I mean, we talk about this movie just being relentless. It comes to a pretty screeching halt here.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it hurts it. You don't necessarily, you just feel it. You feel it in the pace of it. You need a break, but it's not really a break because the emotional stuff just gets to you. You spend so much time building up hope and tension with these characters. You've raced with them across the desert, and then there's no oasis awaiting them.
I had a friend who had a really interesting psychological reaction to that. She said, I love the movie, but I hate that the fact that they turn around and they have to go back to the Citadel. And to me, it was fascinating that she said that because I was like, but that says more about you as a person because you want the characters to get away and go and go and go and go until they come to an ocean. But I like that. I actually like that moment where they're devastated and then they're there because the movie breathes for a second. But it's interesting to me that they turn around and have to go back.
Choice.
It's the hard choice and it's difficult. And I related to my friend because I'm one of the people that when my first reaction was like, oh, keep going, keep driving. Like I just go, get away. Like I don't want to go back.
It's the hope of the unknown.
Yeah. I was worried that it would get less inventive when they went back into the story that they'd already driven out of. But then it was so awesome that I was like, okay, I'm fine with this.
But that's the moral compass of the film, that they return to save it, and that's a very Mad Max plot device.
Yeah.
It occurred to me on this watch, they keep referring to the salt flats. I think that was ocean. I think they're surrounded by ocean that dried up.
Because they talk about 160 days.
Yeah,
They're
that it's just all salt.
Think about that. That is a great point. They're talking like 160-day ride. Where if you're riding motorcycles, you're riding for 160 days, you're gonna hit something. And you're right, it has to be the ocean.
I think it's the ocean. I think it's all dried up.
One of the places, the place of many mothers, or I think we actually see that green and tree-like in Furiosa. Like we're going back to one of those places.
Yeah. There's no water. My God, this is all hitting me because water.
There's no water. It's such a precious commodity. It's just gasoline. So I'm pretty sure that surrounding them is dead ocean, dried up ocean.
That actually makes sense because in the video game Mad Max on PS4, they actually talk about how like the ocean's gone and there's this whole tribe was like, we're gonna wait here for the waters to return, and so it's like the ocean dried up. Yeah. Fascinating.
No.
So
Good
interesting.
Catch, B. I'm giving you all the credit.
It's actually my boyfriend, so I can't even take it. I know, I gotta give it to him.
on the podcast and drop you, and then
he did listen. He was like, "You guys actually sound like you know what we're talking about." I'm like, "Could you sound less surprised?" Thank you.
Any other thoughts on this? So they head back, and this is, I think, where we get like the ultimate car chase, where it really amps up. We get those like pole vaulters.
Yeah,
I love the pole cats.
The fact that it doesn't lose any steam is amazing because there's so many action movies out there where you have this great set piece in the middle, and then the third act action sequence is exhausting and dull. And that is not the case with this film. I will say I wish that a Morton Joe's death was a little bit more like graphic. You know what I mean? But it's still pretty good. Like
things just keep moving, and that's so early in the film. I mean, it feels early just because everything moves so fast that they cruise on by it.
Talk about Nux's redemption, and we really mentioned nothing about Nux in this movie. Nicholas Hoult plays
the
Nux.
Heart of this movie.
Really, yes, because the War Boys. I guess they Morton Joe mentions that these are like Half-Life people. I guess they've all been affected by
some kind of radioactivity
or something. They're cancerous warts on them.
Larry and Barry.
Yeah, Larry and Barry.
The medical stuff in this movie like disgusts me in a good way. It's just sickening. Yeah.
All the talcum powder Morton Joe's using.
And all the like tubes and blood bags. I'm just like, oh God.
The hook he takes out of his neck.
It's horrible.
It's so gross.
But Nux, he's on part of the good guys on the in the second half of this, and I really just love his redemption in this. It becomes really his redemption story at the end, and his final witness me, where he takes out what I call him one of the mini bosses, but I wrote his name down here. I think it's Slit is his name.
Yep.
Slit.
Yep.
Oh, by the way, great name for one of Immortan Joe's son.
Oh, yes.
Rictus Erectus.
Rictus Erectus.
Yeah.
I had a brother. I had a baby brother, and he was perfect.
I love that guy. I don't know who the actor is, but I just love the way
he's a
portrays him.
behemoth. He was perfect for that role.
Yeah. But, they're going through that chasm again, and he sacrifices himself to save the Max and Furiosa in the Bride. So great moment where, one last time he says, "Witness me," and he takes them. See, what I'm a little confused about is the pass he takes out, and there's a pile up. But is this really the end of the war party? I mean, I feel like, yeah, Joe's dead, and maybe just because Joe is dead, that's really the end because the leader is gone. But like, it won't take them long to get through there still.
Yeah, I mean they eventually get through, but like I'm not. Yeah, it's more like a roadblock. I think, like a time delay.
It's interesting how all of these movies use some quasi-religious imagery, and Nux, they obviously have some weird religious stuff with Immortan Joe, his Witness Me, and the Road to Valhalla, and Shiny and Chrome, and when he loses faith as a war boy, he immediately substitutes this other mythic figure in Mad Max. Now, I happen to align with Mad Max and the war rig and getting the mothers to safety here, but he's just a tragic figure.
At the end of this,
I love this movie.
Get your opinion on this. Think about this for a moment, where this movie ends. Furiosa is back. Is she the queen of the Citadel now? This place still has tons of problems. The infrastructure is built on the backs of slave labor. Like, now what? I mean,
I feel like if she is the queen, which it kind of seemed like she was, she'll release the water and like turn it into a garden.
And the women.
Yeah.
We haven't talked about how the women supplying mother's milk she left them behind. They're still there.
They're still, exactly.
My only, it's not even really fully, well, it kind of is, gripe with this movie is I think George Miller tends to lean on appearances and disability as visual language for evil and beauty as visual language for good a lot in these movies. This movie,
I could see that, yeah,
falls victim to it as well. However, there are plot devices in it, like the war rig can only hold so many people underneath, and the wives are clearly in imminent danger. One of them's pregnant, so that. And then you also get these women, the Vuvolini, who are beautiful but not young as well. So
yeah. All right.
The one guy looking through the telescope at the beginning when he notices the war rig deviating, that guy actually had a real condition. Like, that was an actual person. Like, he did not. It was not like a set or like makeup thing. Like, he had an actual. And I can't remember what it was, but like he was actually cast. With his actual, like, that guy is what that guy looks like, basically. Yeah. I think I've got that right, but yeah.
So thank you for dialing into our transmission. If you agree or disagree with our views, don't keep it to yourselves. Let us know your thoughts. Sharing your feedback is essential to building a community around our love of movies. You can do so by sending us an email at backtotheframerate@gmail.com or by finding us on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, Twitter, or YouTube. Still refuse to call it X. We would also love it if you could just take a moment to leave a solid rating and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to our show. We thank you all in advance. All right. It is time for movie pairings.
Hello, welcome to Masterpiece Video. How may I help you this afternoon, sir?
I'm looking for a copy of 8 1/2.
Is that a new release, sir?
No, it's the classic Italian film.
Yes, sir. Just check that on the computer for you, sir.
Hello. How are you young ladies this afternoon? May I help you find a particular masterpiece movie?
No.
Yes, here it is. 9.5 Weeks with Mickey Rourke. That would be in the erotic drama section.
No, not 9.5, 8.5. The Fellini film.
How about this one? Get it? I'm sure it sucks. All these movies suck.
All right, think I'm first. I changed my mind in the middle of the episode. So listeners, I know. I was gonna suggest a movie to you that is fine. I was gonna suggest Mortal Engines, which is big and expensive looking.
I kind of like that movie. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun.
It's not great, but I saw it in a hotel room and I was like, wait a minute, I'm enjoying myself watching this.
Yeah, exactly. If that movie had come out not in the age of streaming, I think we all would have been very happy to have it on reruns. But instead, I want to focus on, let's just get everybody back to the theater. I think you should go see Dune 2 if you haven't already. If you somehow haven't seen it and you need more desert in your life and you need more weird chases and you need more excellent color grading and big sounds and expensive looking things and more sand, go see Dune 2. Go see it again if you've already seen it. It was friggin' awesome. Go back to the theater, get in the habit of it. Do it again.
You know what I say about that?
What?
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
All right. I accept that.
Thanks.
Okay.
Sam, what is your secret recommendation?
I'm going to pose you guys a question because I can't decide between two of them. One is serious and intense. The other one is chase and action, but it's funny. And you guys have a leaning. Chase and action and funny?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I was heading in that direction. So I represent, you've watched Fury Road. You've had a really intense time. It's incredible. You're exhausted by how amazing it is, but you still want some fun on the road. Maybe you want a movie that's a 90-minute car chase with, alas, no, but that is a good one. If you want a car chase and you want some fun and you want a classic late 70s vibe, look no further than Smokey and the Bandit.
I knew you were going there. I knew it.
1977. There are trucks. There are cars.
I'm glad he didn't go Cannonball Run. That's all I have to say.
Cannonball Run is awful film. Yeah.
Sam, I came this close to recommending Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid because Furiosa and Mad Max.
That's actually pretty good. Yeah. I just read Smokey and the Bandit is. I was not on the Smokey and the Bandit bandwagon until 2016. I always thought the title sounded too stupid. I didn't know what it meant. Smokey is like the Southern word for like cops. So it's basically like cops and robbers. Cops and robbers. But when I was a kid, I always thought Smokey and the Bandit sounded like a dumb Disney movie where it was like Burgo the seagull and Floppo the raccoon. And I was like, I don't want to watch this crap. Then I saw it in 2016 for the first time, and it's as entertaining as 1977 Star Wars in a different way. Wow. Like it is a sublimely ridiculous. I would put it in my top 20 films of just having fun. It is stupid. It's great. I absolutely love it. Jackie Gleason is like the ultimate like dumbass villain, and like it 1977 box office number 1 was Star Wars, number 2 was Smokey and the Bandit, and 3 was in Close Encounters. So this movie beat Steven Spielberg's incredible alien emotional film, which I think is a masterpiece. But for this, you've watched Fury Road, you've had an intense time. Come down with Smokey and the Bandit and just laugh and just release your tension and enjoy this ridiculous romp of silliness.
Why not?
I like that you're like, oh, Flop the Bird and Rocco the Raccoon. Better watch Nux and Rictus Erectus.
I just thought Smokey and the Bandit, it sounded like a goofy kids movie. And then I first saw it when I was like 35 and I was like, wait a minute, how did I miss this? This is excellent.
See, I knew what Smokey meant because I grew up with my dad. He had a CB in his pocket.
Awesome. Yeah.
And I learned CB talk. radio talk, and like, what's your 20, and and I don't remember
Smoking
all of
on
it
your
now,
tape.
but so I got, and he would let me talk on the CB every once in a while too. So
I hear that.
we got to find out where all the police were staked out, and
Yeah.
what's over your shoulder, and all the cool stuff,
all that lingo. That's so awesome. I will say briefly that Smokey and the Bandit 2 is very mediocre and has an animal fetish. It's obsessed with an elephant, which is not funny. And Smokey and the Bandit Part 3, one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my life. That would be fascinating to discuss one time. I would teach that in a film class of like, it is the most awful Part 3 I've ever seen in my life.
We should do like a Razzies theme.
Yeah, it is so awful, and it's so depressing, and like Eastbound and Down, the song by Jerry Reed, and the first one is like, I love it. The Ticket to the Wind, the ending of the third one is just, it's the sound of the song. It's so depressing. It's like the series grew up, and like, it's like people from high school split up and they're all not doing well, and everyone's older, and like life is what. Smokey and the Bandit 3 is a fascinatingly horrific, terrible movie. Came out in the summer of '83 and bombed at the box office. Yeah, just failed. Yeah.
Well, if you want to catch Smokey and the Bandit, I see that it's streaming on Netflix right now, so that's great. And
that's right. I meant to mention that. Sorry.
And Dune 2 is on video on demand right now. I think it's not streaming right now. My pick for a pairing, I'm going with Annihilation from Alex Garland.
It's a good movie.
And I'm trying to
love that movie.
So I'm trying to figure out what's the best tie-in to Fury Road. Anyways, I think Alex Garland, is one of the best directors working today, despite a bit of a disappointment with Civil War, but I still did enjoy that film. All right. This stars a great cast, Natalie Portman, Jennifer Jason Leigh, Tessa Thompson, Oscar Isaac. It also takes place in an alternative future timeline where this mysterious shimmering electromagnetic field has suddenly appeared on Earth's surface, and it is continuously expanding, enveloping the Earth, and it's mutating everything that it touches. Natalie Portman leads an all-female expedition into the shimmer, and things get weird. Mm-hmm. This is my favorite Alex Garland film.
Yes, me too.
Jennifer Jason Leigh doing good things in this movie.
Yep. It's my number one movie of 2018. I think it's a great pairing with Fury Road. Both have female leads, are strong-willed and determined women, and also not solely defined by their physical prowess, but also their intelligence and resourcefulness. Mm-hmm. And of course, both navigate some very hostile environments. So maybe that's where my comparison lies.
I mean, 2018 was a great year for movies, so I'm still kind of stuck on that, but yeah.
And I guess one other thing I'll mention about Annihilation, it's one of the most gorgeous films in the last 5 years or so. I think there's obviously a lot of CG used in this, and some of it is, I think, a little questionable, but I love the spectacle of this movie and the color palette. Watching this simply just puts me in a trance.
It's a great choice.
I thought the shimmer was terrifying. Like the inside of that world, like I was genuinely scared in a good way, because that place, I'd never seen anything like it. Like I was
more really, directors should realize color can be scary.
Yes.
Bring back Giallo. Let's do it.
And this isn't a spoiler, but I always give extra points to movies that leave us with more questions than answers. And there's no doubt Annihilation is a conundrum of a film that will leave you with questions. So I really enjoy this.
I'll add to that, it's a fun conundrum because it leaves you with questions, but you're like fascinated by the questions. You're not like, oh, I'm annoyed, explain it to me. It's unexplained in a good way. Yeah.
But it does annoy a lot of people. I've had conversations about this, and a lot of people like this movie, but a lot of people are really kind of like off put by this movie as well. So that's why I think it's something worth checking out, because it does spark a lot of debate. So
you make me want to watch it again. Like I love that movie. Yeah.
So 2018 was also the remake of Suspiria, and that would be kind of fun to throw in there too.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I would.
Another like strong female-led cast, super colorful, little dark. Yeah.
Well,
It's a great
Annihilation,
remake.
I was checking, it's on Paramount Plus right now, or you can rent it on VOD. So those are our picks. Let us know if you watch any of these or if you think that these are good pairings. We'd love to know. Okay, let's come back to our thoughts on Fury Road, and this is where we're gonna make our decisions whether this movie is saved or purged into the fiery apocalypse.
Dun, dun,
And I don't know how
dun.
much drama there is with this movie.
Well, I think we're all in agreement. It's time to get rid of this piece of shit. No, just
Yeah,
kidding.
right. Out the window, let it burn. No, it's a hard yes from me.
It's a yes. Like I can't even joke. It's like, of course, like in what world would I not want to put this in the vault? Like I wouldn't be Sam Cole if I said I didn't want it in the vault. You know what I mean? Like I'd be like some automaton or something.
That's the real Blade Runner test to see if they're replicating.
So both of you say yes. I will say yes. This is a no-brainer. I think this is probably one of the greatest movies of all time. I really do. This is a 5. If I didn't say so, I did say it was a 5. Yeah. I think did we all give this 5s?
I gave it 4.5, but still very enthusiastic. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. You are 4.5. We'll never have a perfect movie, will we?
I had an English patient. I think I gave 5.
No, but all of us give a 5.
Oh, yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah,
it never happened. So it is officially in our vault. We will anoint it now.
If you feel it,
but we'll do it for real. I wish you guys could see Sam's reaction when I play the Twisters clip.
That hits me to the core. That like brings out the like truck driving like hillbilly in me, where I'm like,
so right. You were like, you have to watch the second trailer, and I did, and I was like, oh my god,
it's incredible. Yeah,
I need to rewatch Twister at some point in the next month before.
I watched it a few weeks ago. Did you know Twister is almost a perfect movie? Did you know that? It's fantastic. It comes from a time when
movies had crazy in it. Like it's such a good cast.
It's just I don't know why it's not held in higher regard. I really don't. There's so much movie in that movie.
I liked it more than Independence Day when that summer of '96.
I still like it more than Independence Day.
I thought I was actually underwhelmed by the visual effects in Independence Day, and it beat Twister. I mean, like Independence. I'm not going to like go into that, but like it was fine. But Twister really like surprised me at how high octane I loved it. You know,
it's a great movie.
Guys, should we just turn this into an all
Twister
podcast?
Yeah. Yeah.
And Twisters had better be incredible because I've like talked it up so much. Like I hope it doesn't let me down.
When is Twisters coming out?
July 19th.
Hell yeah, it is.
Not that I've memorized that date or anything yet.
Come back to the East Coast. Stay till July 19th so we can all go see it.
Oh God, that'd be incredible. Yeah. Maybe.
All right. I don't know if there's anything else to say here tonight. We may have done it all. Next week we got one last movie in the Mad Max franchise, the new film from George Miller, Furiosa, a Mad Max saga, which is one of the most anticipated movies for all of us, I think, this year. I think we're all really looking forward to this. Yeah, I can't wait. I'm seeing it in 4 days. I think we're all seeing it this week.
Yeah.
Yep, seeing it Thursday.
Me too.
All right.
Rock and roll.
I've had this is the first movie I think we've seen in the theater, a new movie in the theater on the podcast this year. So yeah.
It's not like we would do it in Q1. Those movies.
I know. The funny thing is also I've had the habit all year. We've been watching so many things on streaming and video on demand. I have my notebook where I take notes constantly. Like, do I bring my notepad in to the theater, into the IMAX, and like just like start scribbling away at things because I'm really bad.
No one can
otherwise.
stop you.
No one's gonna stop me.
That'd be funny if you like yell out for them to stop the projector. Like, hey, go back. I missed that line. I got to get that note. They'd be like, "Who the fuck is this?" Like,
but do I bring my phone with a little like light? So
don't use your phone. No,
I'm not gonna do that. I would
don't
never
do that. Nicole Kidman would be so mad at you.
Oh my god.
we come to the theater when the lights dim.
I love that ad so much.
I always feel embarrassed by it because it's like she's so thankful that everyone's there, and I feel like embarrassed. I'm like, yes, I know, but like you're drawing attention, you're putting attention on the audience, and I feel really awkward. Like
I don't go to AMC's very much, so
that membership, man, it's hard to pass up.
Yeah, it's good. It's just like everyone laughs when it comes on because she's like, we go to the theater. It is, yeah. I love the SNL skit about it, by the way. It's great.
Yes. I want to be that for Halloween this year. We should really wrap up this podcast. We're done. There's nothing more to say.
We're going off the rails. Okay. Next week, Mad Max Furiosa. Thanks, everyone. That's our show. I was about to say Mad Max is part of the Weston Media Podcast. Back to the Frame Rate is part of the Weston Media Podcast Network. We wish to thank Brian Ellsworth for our show opening. On behalf of all of us, we bid you farewell from our fallout shelter. Your presence in our underground sanctuary is truly appreciated. We are truly sorry you cannot join us, but we want to express our gratitude for your company. If you are finding solace in our discussions, we kindly ask that you subscribe and leave a rating and review. You can find more of our episodes of this podcast on backtotheframerate.com, and our handle on our socials is backframerate. Or is it back to? Oh my God, what is our handle?
Back Frame Rate.
Back Frame Rate, yes. Your support is the beacon of light that brightens our confined space. It is
we gotta
people.
go home.
Head on over to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or whichever portal connects you to our broadcast and share your thoughts. Until we emerge from the fallout, stay with us, keep hope alive, and keep those reviews coming. This is the end of our transmission. Back to the Frame Rate, signing off.
I want you to know it's over.
Well, bye.
Bye.